All right, great. Let me play this short 30 seconds clip, and then we'll talk. Let's see.
And on to our breaking news, where Dangote Refinery has finally commenced production in the country. Well, the largest refinery in the world, a single train refinery in the world, began production in the early hours of today. Once again, Nigeria's Dangote Refinery has finally commenced production in the country, and it began production in the early hours of today.
All right, so that video that short clip I just played was from 3 weeks ago. There is a special report that I really want to read. Just a short beginning part of it.
Is it the one from Bloomberg?
Yes, but it's Bloomberg is it's a different version of it.
Right.
But hold on one second here. This one is on Financial Times. Okay, but first of all, let me just see here really quickly. Okay, yeah, so here published on, I'm not sure when this was published. Anyway, okay. So Dangote Oil Refinery's U.S. crude purchase. Nigeria's Dangote Oil Refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels a day and owned by Aliko Dangote. Hold on one second, let me just make sure. Yep. Owned by Aliko Dangote, has come under scrutiny for its purchase of 2 million barrels of crude from the U.S. This move has raised questions about why Nigeria, as the largest producer in Africa and heavily dependent on petroleum revenue, isn't utilizing its own supplies to feed the giant plant. All right, so that's one right there. Okay. Now I'm looking at this graph that you might see on the screen right now. Declining production. Nigeria's output has dropped as much as 50% over the last decade. This is Nigeria, okay? Nigeria is supposed to be the crude nation, right? Now, also, one of my many awesome aunties sent me a message, I think it was yesterday, with regards to actually her major question is that Nigeria is Dangote going to enslave Nigerians, because of the price of cement, which has gone up, I think, over the last few days from 1,500, I'm not sure, to 7,000 naira, I think, right? And
6,500.
6,500 naira. And Dangote is obviously the richest black man in the world, and a lot of people. I made mention of my big uncle, the Reverend Canon Fabwego, who also defined or took the time to explain what Isalero Legmi for me meant. Because as typical regular folks, Nigerians, we've been raised to think that means they've all done dirty stuff. But this kind of stories always kind of make you want to reflect back to that maybe it is true. But he explained to me at the time that it just meant the amount of dirt that you have to go through to become that successful. That's really what that means. Again, I'm talking about all of this now with relations to the currency and the fact that Nigeria is not selling anything or producing anything for the rest of the world to say, hey, this came from Nigeria, made in Nigeria. I think that's that's the fundamental issue here. But I also understand on a day-to-day basis that he might have some power because he's a major producer of cement, of refined oil, because obviously people always say, why is the Gari woman, why is she spiking her own Gari that's made locally too? Well, she might have a car. She needs to ride in the car and she has to pay for petrol. and if these things are being imported, not only are you importing refined petrol now, you're also importing crude oil to the extent of 2 million barrels, when I don't know the intricate details of all of this. I'm not a subject matter expert, but just a little bit of what I just explained here, it makes sense to me that Naira as against the dollar will continue to depreciate because we're importing everything. So with all of this, I'm sure you're paying a lot more attention than I am to what is going on in this situation. Can you share your thoughts and what you think
Yeah.
about all of this?
Number one,
Yeah.
you have said it in the words of the great sage, the industrial titan of his time, um, around southwest Nigeria. And that is not just my opinion. When uh, my crew and I visited the late Oba uh, Shijuade, the late Oba Okwade Shijuade Olubushe, that was his opinion about the late Canon Olajide Fagboyegu. Now, him explaining to you that at the bottom of every well, there would always be debris or dirt. Yes, it's about the amount of hard work, the amount of insult, the whole stuff about intrigues that people would have to go through because they become financially successful and completely solvent and prosperous in life. But can that be said of the business practice of an Aliko Dangote? Whatever is behind the way Aliko Dangote plays his game with the Nigerian people, the Nigerian market, and now spreading across Africa, will not ever be understood until the man is, because he spends, give that to him, he spends so much money acquiring all kinds of executive training. He's either going for one training or the other. And he also talks about responsible corporate governance. At least when he's a group spokesperson, corporate communications director, Mr. Anthony Shejine, used to talk to us. They used to emphasize things like that. But in practice, what do we know of Alhaji Aliko Dangote?
Yes.
As end users of the products he pushes into the market? They are probably the most expensive. I do not know if this is fueled by the cost of production. But let us put that aside. How about his alleged practices when it comes to the trade or business wars? How he will want to stifle competitors and then create a situation of a near absolute monopoly. With, yes, Aliko Dangote, you may be asking questions. Is Nigeria really embracing the adjunct to democracy, which is free market economy? Do we have that as part of the ethics of doing business as Aliko Dangote? This question of him allegedly buying 2 million barrels of crude from the United States, while the entire Nigerian coastline is awash with crude deposits, will never be answered until somebody like Mele Kyari, the group MD of NNPC or NNPCL, whatever they call it, until such people begin to speak up, and we know what fuels this kind of a business arrangement. Because people are complaining of the kind of a loan arrangement, the loan syndication that went into making the Dangote Refinery in Lagos possible. It's talking of generous concession and him not being given the same foreign exchange rate as the rest of Nigerians, like you and I. For example, when I was returning to the United States during my last visit to Nigeria, in spite of the fact that I had a considerable amount of dollars in my domiciliary account there, they were not going to give me more than $200. I knew of a man that was weeping that he had over $100,000 in his domiciliary account. They didn't want to give him more than $200. So how come Dangote often have access to limitless cash, terms of forex? So, all things considered, there will be questions trailing the operations, the model of operation that Dangote foist on all of us in Nigeria. But what the common man is feeling, or what you and I tend to know about Dangote is different from what the leadership across Africa projects about him. This last week, he was awarded the highest civilian honor possible in Senegal, Order of the Lion or Kangaroo or whatever they gave to him. And the rest of us in Africa, look at what the cost to all of us. Yes, they are celebrating him for spreading out, for employing people and all that. But at what cost? To the people and to the system. So these are issues that would have to be addressed. How much is he owing the rest of us, allegedly, from loans syndicated through the Central Bank of Nigeria? Even before the operation started, when they wanted to celebrate the emperor like they were in Mobutu Sese Seko's country, and they were saying Buhari was being eased out. You had Emefiele announcing to the whole world that, come and see, Dangote has already finished paying whatever loan was advanced him by the by Nigerian bank, which we later find out from our checks was not true. So, for how long can this kind of opaque economic standard, for how long can they continue? For how long would look at the trade war that broke out between him and another cement group, the Brai something. That man was trying to. Yeah,
BUA,
that man was trying.
is that called BUA or BUA?
Whatever they pronounce, I don't know.
But we're referencing the same thing, basically. Yes. So they try to put a price to help the people, but they couldn't agree.
Yeah, that man has since been silenced.
Yeah, they got shut out. Yeah, they got shut out.
Yes, you know, he's talking of Aliko Dangote here. Yes, he and Otedola are best of friends today, but at the time they also had their face off. Yes, they had their face off. So
yeah, you know,
this is about the standard. That is operated by Dangote. The whole thing is on him. And one other thing, I think, yes, when you are talking of the drag at the bottom of things for the rich or people's wealth, that guy does not mind employing cutthroat tactics at times. You know, in chasing after money
to get to the money.
Yes, he does not. He has no mercy for the poor. Even a small media company like ours has been at the receiving end of such taxes before. You know, he could give to everyone, in spite of the fact that he and his minders, they know that this is a business that is operated by a disabled person, that we should be protected in an inclusive situation from his company. He turned the other way. The other way.
Two things.
So when you are weak, he doesn't like you as a weak person coming around him. But what they project with his foundation. Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, what they often project with his foundation, and he's generous, he loves the poor and all that. But that does not show from the prices that comes from his salt, noodles, all kinds of things that is involved in. It drives and dictates the pace.
Yeah. The
Even
three things I want to share with you. Three things,
yes,
right? Based off of what you just said. There was an outburst from the founder of Ovation, Mr. Dylan
Dele Momodu.
Momodu,
Yes,
with
sir.
regard, and this outburst was against, I think, some kind of media personnel or somebody who was a chief media personnel from Dangote, and he was very angry. He came on Instagram and made a whole allegation against this person for not allowing them. There's some events, I don't want to be misquoted or misquote anybody here, but just to add to what you just said with regards to even the way they treat media sometimes from that company. But anyway, that's that. The second thing I wanted to share with I was one of my aunties here was having a party, and one of my friends, husband, were around. I have a couple of friends who are chemical engineers, and some of them have been invited directly from the Dangote to come and join the company in Nigeria. And the two that I can remember glaringly right now, they just outrightly said no, they don't want to be a part of it because of they don't feel like Nigeria has adequate environmental laws in place to even contain the idea of a plant that is capable of producing 650,000.
Yeah, tell me more about that, because
Yeah.
even when the law is there concerning standards about
Right.
containing environmental hazards,
Yes.
there is a name we call it. Yes, um, environmental impact assessment. Yes,
Yes.
that
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
EIA.
Good
That is what
point.
it's called.
Good
Yes,
point.
because
And
even
particularly, so go
yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
I know about this firsthand. Even when you want to do mining operations in Nigeria, say you want to prospect sharp sand, like we have that in abundance in Ayedeogbese Kingdom. So you are required to do environmental impact
Assessment
assessment.
for impact
People,
assessment. Yes.
yeah, people go to all lengths, all kinds of shady stuff to beat that. And that is why you see, they will never be able to capture properly the side effects of
The
some
side
of these
effect.
unwholesome, of some of these unwholesome practices on the Nigerian people. When
Yes.
the late Mr. Kensara Wiwa, playwright and comedian, when he spoke about these things, the build up to all that, to his activism, came in his landmark book, Prisoners of Jed. See, when people like that started pointing it out, look at what they use shell and all kinds of neo-colonial companies,
Yes.
what they
Yes.
use them to do to that man. Look at what Abacha did. Abacha killed and murdered the Ogoni 9, almost in the fashion, through which Patrice Lumumba was killed. Remains was destroyed, and no trace, because they were bagged with acid.
Right.
That is how. So let me comment openly. These your two friends. I
Yeah.
hope we can have
More people
enough
like that.
people. Yes, but beyond
Right.
the fact that they were hanging it on the
Yeah.
lack of what's it called, environmental
Particularly, so
standards.
I was gonna say that. So not the law, because we know
Yes, but
Nigeria
let me
has
also
laws on paper, but
let
no
me
enforcement.
let me also tell you this. When some of the people who have accepted their offers get there, I'm not saying they should not go there, because I have no alternative for them. But when
Right.
they go there, they would learn the hard way that these people, they behave like despots and tyrants in their
Right.
corporate business
Environment.
environment. Yeah, that is the way they operate. And Nigeria does not have enough protection for
In
these people
fact,
when they are violated, even in
to
terms
be
of
honest with
wages.
you, in recent times, I started to wonder, because I look at the likes of nothing against these people. I don't know. I'm just looking, and I'm looking deeper, right? I'm looking at the likes of Tony Elumelu, Otodola doesn't really tend to do that. He just shows his family. But Tony Enumelu, some of these people, some of the
Tony
pictures,
Elumelu,
some
Tony
of the
Elumelu is in a way different. He supports small businesses.
no.
Yes.
I'm even talking about something that's entirely right. I'm talking
Okay.
about what they showcase on Instagram and the lengths they go to showcase that. I understand that PR is a big part of running a big conglomerate like what they run, right? I completely get that. But sometimes I wonder what is going on behind the scenes. Is the point I wanted to make. But also, let me just say this really quickly, right? The Dangote situation is actually very scary because something happened in India. One of my friends from Houston said this. Big chemical engineer from Houston. I'm not going to mention any because I'm not sure if he wants to.
No, he won't be comfortable with that.
Right. So he was very adamant, about this idea of running that big of a refinery in a nation that hasn't even taken care of something as simple as a simple residential environmental law enforcement.
That's right.
And then when you have when you have the amount of power that is in the hands of a Dangote, and when you consider what happened in India a few years ago, that was completely disastrous, and some of the things that I've been hearing has been happening even next to the refinery, it raises eyebrow of concern. Like hopefully they know what they're doing with regards to this big refinery that they're now even importing crude oil. Now, speaking of importing, I want you to speak to that too, but because of our time, right? Speaking of importing crude oil, right? One of the things
From the United States.
From the United States, right? One of the things that he said to me was that I'm also seeing in some credible reports here is that in 2018 reports there's multiple reports, with regards to more than 1 million barrels per day of crude oil that's already in pre-sale, for 10 to 15 years to secure funding for critical infrastructure projects, right?
For example, Nigeria are borrowing a little over $3 billion from the African Export-Import Bank.
Exactly.
And now the outlay for repaying that is saying that Nigeria will pay back with backup crude supplies worth about 12 point something billion. I said, what kind of loan arrangement is this?
Exactly.
Yes. So the interest of Nigeria is not often looked into when this.
When they're striking these kind of deals.
Yes, people should go and copy something from the history of how people like Obafemi Awolowo ran the Nigerian economy during the civil. Awolowo trained as he had what you would call a degree in economics, Bachelor of Commerce in those days before he also got his Bachelor of Laws degree. But how did he manage that economy alongside other eggheads without the country running into bankruptcy?
Yeah.
And there was surplus even after the Civil War. How did that happen? These people should look into history, and some archival material should be declassified so that some knuckleheads could know better. Pardon my language. But as it is now, the central bank, the National Assembly has invited the minders of the Nigerian Central Bank for an open hearing on why Naira is on free fall. Why would Naira not be on free fall?
Yeah.
Yes, the undercurrents of the economy are not strong. There is no productivity. Everything is in a confused situation. The country is in a quagmire.
So all of this makes sense to me that Naira is in the free fall. If you are buying crude oil and you've basically potentially sold out the next 10 to 15 years, a significant amount of crude oil.
Naira is not.
This is reminding me. This is sorry, Chief. This is reminding me of of a matter like the story of Esau àti kí lorúkọ ọmọ yìí jàre.
And Jacob.
This is what this is like, selling your birthright. This is what this is reminding me of.
Yeah, for a pot of porridge. So, yeah, leadership in Nigeria has been outsourced long ago, big time. So, if you had a big D, Mr. Dele Momodu,
Yes.
questioning the way media has been treated, because they will call you,
and he's usually very diplomatic before he gets to that stage. He's normally a diplomat.
Let me see, as an experienced Nigerian journalist, let me tell you, what happens is that everybody has been reduced to a protocol journalist. But yes, that script they give to you, the prep they give to you at media events, it's not where the story would be. For example, when Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, who is now in the Senate and past governor of Edo State, was leading the Nigerian Labour Congress, I somehow too was covering Labour Beat for the newspaper company with which I used to work. And with people like Auntie Fumi Komolafe, Priska Egede of The Guardian, Komolafe of Vanguard, and so on and so forth. We paid attention closely to the labor face-off with the government. And so one of these days, a Dornier jet was stationed, and then a few of us were selected to go on tour of Nigerian refineries with the then Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Garner, and we went from Kaduna to Port Harcourt, the two refineries in Port Harcourt, and then Warri. Beyond what they were telling us, I just approached one of the workers on site. What is going on here? And then the Pandora box was opened. The Romanians that had been brought by Chrome Consortium, owned by Sir Emeka Ofo, I was told, were not really competent about the so-called turnaround maintenance, into which Nigeria had sunk over 10 billion naira at that time. You know what 10 billion naira then will mean in today's naira? The current exchange rate. And all that money went down the drain. If they are telling you that the problem of the refinery started at this stage or that stage, they are not being sincere. It's been endemic since the early 1990s. Yes. After the windfall from the Gulf War and what have you, Nigeria has been in steady decline as to how the refineries were handled, as to how the crudes were sold, and what was reported to the people of Nigeria. What I'm concerned about is why Nigeria continues to keep a Mele Kyari, who has been, and then even look at the arrangement of the privatization of the NNPC, they call NNPCL now. Nigeria still has a lot to do in being honest with its people.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Or the entire Nigerian economy. That is the same thing.
Unfortunately, Chief, I don't see it. It has to crash and hit rock bottom. I don't know what that looks like. It doesn't have to be bloody, because we're in a digital world.
My hope is that we don't get that kind of situation.
No. Like I said, Chief, it doesn't have to be bloody. We're in a digital world, but I mean, many people in their personal lives will describe their particular experience right now as it feels bloody. It doesn't have to be bloody. It doesn't have to be bloody before it feels bloody, right? When people start to feel that way, everything is going to cease. When everything ceases and there's no money coming from anywhere, then they will have. But I don't know. So we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, you go back to that situation already painted by Omoyele Sowore, State of Anarchy. Well said.
Yeah. All right. So let's leave that there. We want to know your thoughts about this. I know we kind of like maybe a little even long-winded, but we needed to have this conversation because people are going through a lot. All right. So do me a favor, please, as you're still here, we got maybe a couple more stories to cover. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, and follow. And we'll be back in about 20 seconds.